Welcome to LeCorner, La Source's digital show dedicated to the sport and entertainment industry. Every 2 weeks, we invite a professional to share their experience, background, and challenges. The sport industry moves fast, and having their insights is the best way to keep up to speed. Welcome to LeCorner.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of LeCorner, our sport business podcast. It's a pleasure to have two very good founders with me today. I have Nish and Aksha. But hi guys, how are you doing?
Hey, JB, wonderful. Bright and sunny Dubai.
Yeah, I can brag a little bit. It's also sunny in Paris for quite a few days. That's all right.
I bet we can beat you on the sunny aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, guys. Usually we usually start. We like to start a bit with a bit of background on your journeys. A bit like not all of our listeners are necessarily familiar with CAMB.AI, but we'll go through it. But we're also interested to understand a bit more. What's your background? What you've done? I know you two met 27 years ago or something like that, more or less. But I will let you explain that maybe in further detail.
100%. Thanks a lot, JB. Thanks for having us on the podcast. Happy to share my story. My name is Avnish, and I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of CAMB.AI. My life's journey began about more than 5 decades back, and I've been in the technology sector for about 33 years now, and created a number of businesses, predominantly in B2B, SaaS, digital, globally, working in one common theme, one common thread that has run through all the businesses has been the topic of inclusivity. So I worked in digital inclusivity, which meant that we brought about 1.3 billion people into a formal economy in India by giving them an acknowledged identity. I worked in financial inclusion. That was one of the businesses I created. Uh, Connectivity, IoT, and also in digital media when the whole sector of media was going from analog to digital. So we've seen the whole transition from the legacy business to what media today is, whether it's applied to general entertainment or sports. And I founded the company along with my co-founder Ark, who's also on the podcast. I'll let him introduce himself. And yes, we are 27 years apart. We met 27 years ago, and that's a different story, and we can get into that. Akshat, why don't
Yeah,
you?
maybe I don't know if you wanna to briefly introduce yourself to the listeners as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, JB, thanks for having us. I'm Ak. I'm the CTO at CAMB. I grew up programming and building stuff. I went to Carnegie Mellon for my degree in AI and CS. Worked on Siri for a few years, building now in hindsight one of the first versions of a Chat GPT like system in Siri. Um, have run a company before this, had a small exit, and then came to CAMB.AI to as Avnish sir said, the kind of the future of localization and what we're doing in everything in language translation.
So for those listening to us, like Ak is really the beast from the CTO side. Is really kind of the nerd of the crew in terms of building products, having done it all. Like from the let's say the academic background to the first, let's say, work you've been doing. But why? Like how can like to me like I can hear from Avnish all the transition from legacy to what media entertainment is today, the inclusivity and what's behind CAM. But yeah, like how, why, like what was the main motivation behind it? Was it more the vision you have behind CAM? And maybe you can just explain quickly what is CAM so that people understand. But for me, it's like, what's the motivation? What's the why of CAM behind it?
I think, JB, to understand the why behind CAM, I'll take you uh, 40 years back, maybe. So there's a movie being played out in a theater, and the movie is A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's probably one of the scariest movies ever created. And a bunch of kids, I'm one of them, we walk into the theater. Uh, we hope to not come out of the theater alive, just super scared of what was going on. That was at least the expectation. We came out laughing. Why? The experience was so comical. The dialogue delivery, the expressions was so poorly dubbed. When you fast forward the whole experience, and as you mentioned, me and Ark are 27 years apart. I met him in a hospital. He was presented to me in a tray. He's my son. But while a number of things have changed in these 27 years that we are apart, one thing that we realized has not changed is the whole problem of language. Whether you look at entertainment content, you look at sporting content, you look at healthcare, look at education, the whole language divide has continued to be the biggest exclusivity factor. So while language is a tool of diversity, it's also a dramatic tool for exclusion. And that is the simple problem that we decided to solve for the world. Arc had this uh, major background in what has come to be known as generative AI, but more importantly, even in speech technologies. So we had a technology, we had our own real life experiences, our professional experiences of how language has impacted or prevented content from going from one part of the world to another part of the world, and we knew we could solve it. And that was the inspiration behind creating CAMB.AI. We do recognize quite unapologetically, we say it, that the internet was created for English speakers, and less than 20% people speak that language. Most of the content, digital content, is available in English language, and yet less than 20% people speak that language. So that's a problem that had to be solved. Somebody had to solve it, and we decided to just solve it, really.
Quite straightforward. Quite straightforward. You had like any. What's your, because you are, let's say we are younger. I'm gonna put myself on your side on this one, but we're younger than Avnish, so I'm like under 30. What makes you say, okay, I have my own, like I'm working at Apple, Siri, I'm having my own venture, I'm doing an exit. You have the world for you, and like you're bright, you can build whatever you want, which has like definitely a value on any kind of market. And you go with your dad to fund like a startup. What's what's behind this?
Yeah, so I mean, after founding my first company, I realized that that's the only thing I can do anymore. So very naturally, I would have only founded another company. In what I wanted to do, it was very meaningful to work on this problem, um, because my previous company was about scouting um, really talented prodigies in computer science and entrepreneurship. So it's like we did sports scouting, but for nerds. So instead of scouting for Messi or Ronaldo,
The
I
best
was
talent out there, but for nerds. I love it.
oh, exactly right. I was trying to scout for like who might be in the next Zuckerberg or Bezos. So I used to get these cracked 16 or 17-year-old kids who could outcode anybody. And I think somewhere or another, like whether it's like international upbringing, like I went to high school in India, or seeing such kids, like just I could find them anywhere, right? In the middle of the desert to like any country. I started realizing that, I mean, the world is just so much bigger than often like this myopic day-to-day routine that we have, and there's just so much talent everywhere. And it's very obvious, but it started to become clear to me that as long as you have that burning sensation in your eyes and you want to outwork anybody, you can achieve whatever you want in the world. And I think
Okay.
um CAMB.AI stems from a very kind of personal place in that, right? It's not just language barriers that we're trying to eliminate. It's also the fact that, we've built a company sitting maybe outside of Silicon Valley that often when people come to our website or understand our company, they're like, "Oh, you must be in San Francisco or something," and we're like, "No, no, no. We, like our headquarters are in Dubai." We quickly, I mean, our mission statement, of course, has always been like, okay, like we want to redesign the internet for everybody and make things accessible. And it's kind of like those cliched break language barriers things. But at a deeper rooted level, what motivates us to build this company is that we want to break the things that lie behind language barriers, right? The biases that have been formed because of language barriers and because of these divides. And like I think that's why we're a very mission driven company, in the sense that we want to succeed because we want to show the world that you can build an amazing AI company regardless of where you come from or who you are. And I don't think there's like enough amazing examples of that yet, and we hope to be one of them.
Yeah. All right. That's quite a mission. I mean, that's quite a vision as well, right? You can make it from wherever you are, whatever language you speak. So
Yep.
yeah, I completely buy it. That's also why I like you guys in terms of going back to the inclusivity that Avnish was mentioning at the beginning. Like it's really something that transcend as well a bit in terms of when you are discussing with partners or anybody. So there is more than just business or technology behind it. So that's cool. Um, maybe while you were talking about sourcing the best nerds and being the best on the tech and everything, what's I mean, remember that on the podcast we don't necessarily have nerds or people that are really literate LLMs or things like that, but for me, it would be interesting, like as CAMB.AI doing voice to voice, like, and even more than voice to voice, actually being a language partner. What's the underlying core technology that you've done yourself?
Yeah, so we identify as a technology company that operates on all three layers of the stack, which is we built the product, the infra layer, and we also control our model layer, right? And I think in the AI industry, like a lot of you might have heard about terms like, wrapper companies or foundational companies and stuff like that. Increasingly so in the enterprise world, what we've seen is that it's not just the model layer, it's not just the product layer, it's not just the infra layer that adds value. It's like fulfilling that last mile that enterprises need between where technology and aggregate stands today and what a customer needs. And that's very, very tough. So when we're able to control all three layers of our technology, that means regardless of what that last mile is, we're able to fulfill it, right? Might take a few weeks, might take a little bit of here and there, but we will fulfill it because we kind of control our destiny, so to say. So at a high level, that's the way to kind of think about like the stack of technology. In the model layer, we have two of our own proprietary models, Mars and Boli. Boli is a speech understanding model. So what it can do is it can take speech directly in, let's say in English, and it'll output translated Spanish text directly, right? Because it's learned from speech signals on how to understand what's going on. So it can better determine what emotion of translation needs to get put in, etc. Versus many archaic systems out there. And then Mars is our text to speech system. So it can take a piece of text and hyper realistically with emotion transfer it into speech. And so these models by themselves are useful in like multiple categories or multiple applications because today we do way more than just voice to voice. We're a language partner and these kind of have their own individual capabilities. But when you stick them together, they're able to take speech in one language and speech out in another. So what we have been most known for, what's been the crown jewel of our technology, has been speech to speech translation for VOD, for live streaming, for social media content, all of that. But since these capabilities are rich in themselves, we've been able to really horizontalize ourselves across any language need that an enterprise, and
Mhm.
particularly in sports, that they might have. So those
So yeah,
those are core models, and then the infra and product layer they manifest themselves at different workflows utilizing this core model layer. So that's the way to think about
yeah.
it.
So that's the base of your infrastructure with these two LLMs. But what I get from it is really context is key in language, like the emotions and context and translating that emotion, that experience, the context of it. And so you've built something robust enough on that, just not to be kind of the Google Translate that you see everywhere, where when you just ask for translation, you get the meaning of it, but you can see and you can read that it's not perfect or it doesn't translate everything. So okay, I understood that. And maybe on what you just said, like you mentioned again the language partner. What does it mean for you? Like, how do you see that evolving? Because I can see the kind of robust core tech stack that you have with these LLMs, and these being the foundations in terms of how that can translate in terms of different products and features, being that you want to access your archives, being PDF or videos, or you want live stream or whatever the use case of it. But what's behind the language partner idea?
Yeah, do you want to take that?
So, so JB, if you look at it, I mean, let's take it by way of example, right? When you look at any entertainment company or any sports company, they're all producing content, right? And the first thing that you want to address, and the first very obvious kind of use case that comes to one's head is, can I translate their content, or can I help them to translate their content into multiple languages and really help them to take that content to around the world, right? If it's the French league, they want to take the content to their fans across the world, but it's not really broadcasting or distributing that game of football, right? It's all about fan engagement. And fan engagement goes way beyond just airing the game content or an interview in multiple languages. It's actually a 360-degree experience that you got to bring to your fans. The fans may want to interact with you on a text channel. They may want to speak to you on a speech channel, on a voice channel. They may want to read about you in many different languages. Of course, they want to see your content in different languages. So it's even from a fan engagement perspective, enterprises, sporting leagues, entertainment companies have to do more than just translate the content. Not just that, enterprises have to become multilingual themselves internally. Many organizations around the world have many, many nationalities internally. They have, from one end of the spectrum, uh, you know, uh, they need an ability to convert documents, for example. Not a very highly glamorous use case, but actually enterprises spend tons of money in just translating documents, right? Training material, their press releases, blogs. So when we talk about being a language uh, partner for any enterprise, we help them to become internally multilingual. We help them to conduct their business across their operations in multiple languages with their stakeholders across their extended value chain. And of course, we help them convert their content for their fan engagement in multiple languages across and utilizable across their channels of engagement.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, I understand that. But for me, when you say that to a certain extent, I'm wondering, like, we'll always go back, and that's another discussions we can have as well with the bigger kind of GPT of this world or anything which are very much horizontal. But in terms of scaling the AI-based language platform, like, what's the difficulty? Because you've mentioned it, like, I can see it for internal calls. So I know you guys have developed 70, like, so someone speaking Japanese can talk to, I don't know, someone in Chile and someone else maybe in Africa with another dialect. And so for these kind of internal calls or anything like that, you could even get a granularity in terms of what you're saying, because we're all speaking English now, but my English is not as good as my French or native language. So I can see that in terms of in big corporations. I can see that for PDF, but I'm just wondering in terms of scaling the kind of AI based language, your platform, like, how do you address that hack?
Yeah, it's a very hard problem. I mean, one, like I said, is I go back to the initial thing that I said, is that we operate in 3 layers: model, infra, and product. That infra layer in between, that actually scales everything to every continent in the world, is actually super hard to get right. It's just we play that off that we own the infra layer, but to be able to scale this stuff for it to be extremely robust for things like streams, where it's like you need to be up, like you cannot falter, right? The stream always needs to be up when it's translating, to like serving traffic from like Australia to North America, right? How do you do that? So it's a massive infrastructure project, but we have some amazing partners like in AWS that are able to help us scale and kind of take our technology to the world. And I think more than just kind of the infra scale of it, it's also the kind of tackling the problem scale of it, because like I said, AI is one thing, right? And what often people miss out is there's this always last mile fulfillment for AI to become perfect and usable enough, right? So it's also about scaling the problem set and the solution set, right? And continually hiring the best talent that can solve those problems continuously. And so I think those are two challenges in scale that we continually keep working on at CAMB, and with amazing partners and with the right talent. But yeah, it's quite fundamental. I think it's one of the core reasons why when somebody says like, oh, what's just so cool about that company, I mean, you can envision maybe as a technologist how you would perhaps build things like these or things that might achieve this, but when you really get down to it, it's like it's very, very hard, right? But that's what it
Yeah,
also.
it's not your day-to-day corporate job that you were referring to at the beginning of the call.
No, we often do refer to this as like the rocket science of generative AI, because in end to end, especially end to end speech to speech dubbing, it involves all the modalities, right? We're talking about text, we're talking about speech, we're talking about like some video understanding. I mean, it involves everything, right? And it makes it a very, very, very hard problem to solve. And because we didn't want to be easy on ourselves from a technology viewpoint, doing that also live, where the latency matters as much as quality. So yeah, we didn't make it easy on ourselves, but we'd also be very bored if we weren't working on a very hard problem like this, right?
Actually, that was one of my questions. Like, because we're still like a sport business podcast, so I need to ask you that. Is like, I know you guys work with IMAX, so movie theater. Like, you work with bigger telcos for call centers or for whatever. You work. There is audiobooks. So there are plenty of different business vertical for which you work. But the reality is, like, since the beginning, you've come to the sports worlds, and just to what you were saying, Ak, it seems like you wanted the toughest kind of job at the beginning,
Yes.
because we all know the live stream of sport, like, it's very picky. People are very, like, in our industry, we're kind of risk adverse, especially for the crown jewel of live sports that drives most of the media rights and most of the revenues. So why why do you go straight to, is it on purpose that you've been to that and addressing that needs on the sports side?
Yeah, I think some of it is on purpose, some of it is serendipity. I mean, um, at the end of the day, the dots always make sense when you look back, like Steve Jobs said. It never makes sense when you're going forward. So initially, when we kind of started tackling the world of sports, a knee-jerk reaction to this would be, oh, this technology is obviously something that Netflix will use, right? That's the most common reaction to a technology like this, right? Because it's the first thing that somebody can kind of think of. And sports is, when you actually think about it, makes like the most sense in the world to be tackling sports. But it's not something like the consumer would, oh, like, yeah, sports live streaming, right? We saw, of course, a great business development cycle. We met tremendous partners along the way in the sports world, which made it clear that sports was one of the places where we're going to play and play hard. From a technology perspective, that was exactly, I mean, kind of where you were getting at, is where the mindset is, right? Like, if we just did simple educational videos which I mean, education is a growing segment for us as well. But if we only focused on that, I believe that would be the only thing that our technology would be able to do, right? Whereas when we focus on something as technically hard as sports, and what makes sports hard is obvious to us. Like there's like commentators that are emotive, they're shouting, there's a lot of lingo that's used, there's a fast pacedness, there's the background audience cheering and going crazy. To be able to transfer all of that in another language, in our opinion, that and music rap is the hardest things to try and dub, right? And so we started
Yeah,
with an attack vector on these things, and we realized that most other content was just strict subsets of the problems that you find in sports on a technical level. And yeah, we make this joke often now that like, yeah, your grandma must have said that be good at sports and you will be good at life. It's like very true for our business, both from a business standpoint, or like a business development
I
standpoint,
like it.
and also technology standpoint, right? Because our technology has become robust enough to do sports, it can do many other things very, very well.
And I think
And for you
JB,
as niche, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
uh, two things that really helped us uh, come to the stage where we are. We took a technologically hard problem and a business hard problem, really. I mean, in the world of generative AI and everything that we hear every day around us, a new text LLM, a new agentic model, etc., etc. Really, I mean, what we looked at when we looked at the problem, we realized that the real problem of any enterprise is not whether they can really convert 30 seconds, 5 minutes, an hour of content to something else or not. It was really whether they could do it at scale, at speed, and consistently. And the problem they were trying to solve is, here is my piece of content, or here is my volume of content. Can you take that and transform that into a new language with a degree of realism that it gives an immersive experience to a new set of fans, new set of viewers around the world? And that required us to have a use case based mentality and a complete workflow and a complete solution mentality. Because what we are bringing to the world is real dollar impacting value. We generate real hardcore dollars in terms of revenues and save tremendous costs, hardcore dollars when it comes to the cost matrix, right? So it's no longer, an enabling API. It's a complete business that we're impacting. We had a choice early on. Did we want to expose a text to speech API, or, did we want to expose our translation API? All that would have made sense, except that we would have left the plumbing to the very enterprises whose business is exactly not doing this. When you
Yeah.
talk of French League, when you talk of an IMAX, when you talk of a Major League Soccer or Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, their job,
Or even Eurovision or Sky Sports or anything. They are not. They
Eurovision,
are not.
Sky
Yeah.
Sport, their job is to bring the best possible content to the world, not really figure out how to create a spaghetti of APIs and make sense out of it. So when we focused on the entire problem, it not only meant that we were delivering complete solutions for our end customers, it also meant that we were able to grow our technology with a solutioning mindset, and it grew for the very specific domains that we work in. So we go really deep when it comes to sports, when it comes to movies, when it comes to drama. We really go deep because we understand the nuances of these different types of content that need to be served. Yeah. And
So
fact that
yeah.
we can do tough content now means that if it's an instructional video or if it's a training video, yeah, we can do it as well.
Yeah, you can do it for the toughest, so you can do it for the
Yeah.
easiest bits. But from
And
what you said, the good part is more the saving costs, but also being a revenue generator. So that's
yes.
really something like talking like sports organization. It's usually like the one you've mentioned, so the MLS of this world or the LFP or other ones we're talking with is really like can you help me engage more, having more reach, maybe having more data on my fans. But so to do that, you need more localized, more personalized content, and this is where you come in. But when you look at, and you were saying that at the beginning, like the legacy media or anything, like there is a shift, but the thing is they won't be able to internalize or develop it by themselves. So they continue to do what they are good at, or you come in, and the thing is, like, you have always been kind of business first as well. So it's like how you integrate within their workflow, making sure you save costs, but also maybe for them, it's allowing them to have like new revenue streams coming in. So
100%. And,
that's what it
JB,
is.
when you look at it, we talk, I mean, we are a technology company at the end of the day, and we often like to talk about scalability in terms of technology and infrastructure scalability. But I think, scalability from business perspective is none of this. It's a mindset. Can I present something to my end customer which is business scalable for them, where they can incrementally adopt it, right? In the world of AI, we very firmly believe that there is no perfect world, right? People have to adopt it and keep iterating on top of it, right? So the way we imagine the world is we will go solutions first. We will give a solution to enterprises which will dramatically change their revenue and their cost efficiencies, and which will help them to adopt this technology incrementally. It doesn't matter where they start. An enterprise may start with live streaming their content, which is the holy grail, or they may start with something as simple as converting their documents more efficiently. But irrespective of where they start, we our current engagements, our current customers appreciate the fact that we focus on business scalability. So no matter where you start, you'll be able to scale it up into something which is an enterprise transformation platform, really. And that's what.
And one thing maybe you can touch on, because I think that was also one of the key points when we had discussions back in the days. But when it comes to scalability, I see it two ways. It's like the kind of going to the above the infra. So all the features is like you can serve different client the way you want. But at the same time, for me, and that goes back to all the questions like, but who you are to think like you can compete with a GPT or with a Gemini or anything like that. And maybe having your take on it around scalability, where actually at some point you're also building a tech where you will plateau also to a certain extent the infra required in terms of making it also scalable for you and for your end user, very viable from a business perspective.
That's a very valid point, a great point that you make, JV, because ultimately what we also recognize is that, I mean, that's not just our realization. It's, now a generally known fact and acknowledged fact that the world of AI is predominantly an API based world, right? The more you consume the APIs, the more your costs go up. The more, of course, you consume GPUs and compute, your costs go up. The costs keep chasing your revenue if you are making revenue out of usage of those APIs. And we recognize that fact. So the way we have constructed our technology is to be extremely efficient and we're almost working towards a world where we will create an API-less world. Our models can work autonomously on autonomous, systems. We are a cloud to device technology company. So we do recognize that scalability also means that it has to be cost justifiably scalable. And that's what our models today achieve. Uh, you don't necessarily, our costs of APIs don't necessarily chase you as a ghost as your revenues grow out of usage of our platform. Yeah.
Yeah, I get. But looking a bit ahead, because like this is truly viable, but I mean, sky is always the limit, and I'm sure you have plenty of ideas or everything. But when I hear you, I'm like, okay, the guys that have already done the MLS, we've just signed a deal with the LFP. There is the Australian Open. Same side, like there's been Eurovision with the European Athletics. There will be more coming in. You've just like Comcast, just part of the Comcast with Premier League and Comcast to be working with you. So I'm like, okay, what's what's next in terms of you've got your info or anything, but what's the priorities for you? Or how do you see the short, medium term kind of priorities on your end?
So, I'll take you back to the mission statement that we stated for ourselves. We said, we wanted to redesign, or we wanted to design a world where anybody would be able to consume any content in any language, right? Of course, for us, it started with being a gold standard in entertainment, sports. We are now actually moving fast in education and healthcare, right? Does that still solve the problem for about 8 billion people in the world? Perhaps not. It'll take, a few lifetimes to get across to every individual living on this planet, and to make, to take e- language out of the equation for everybody. So we're working on technologies. We want to take the technology in the hands, in the palm of every consumer alive, and make sure that they are never uh, disadvantaged because they don't know a language. So yeah, we are miniaturizing our technologies. We do believe that speech will become the interface for all consumer devices, and that's where we're headed.
And so we won't be typing on our phones, or even people are no longer tapping on their phones. Actually, they are doing vocals and everything, but we won't be doing that on computers 8 hours a day. But so you're preparing for the next wave of human exchange with the technology, I guess.
100%.
Yeah, I think on the more nerdy side of things, in the world of generative AI, the first thing that came up was like image gen, or maybe I guess like the first thing that came up was everybody looking like Tom Cruise with like deep fakes and stuff. Then like image gen, and then was like the world of text with like Chat GPT and stuff. And now we see increasingly even like uh, across the market. I think 2025 and 2026 is going to be the age of uh, voice AI and speech AI. And I think we own a pretty special place in that entire market when it comes to the niche of speech to speech translation and such.
And how do you see that with, like, because now I'm thinking like with the other interface, like having an iPhone, or so with the likes of Apple and everything, like we've seen the kind of deep sea breakthrough and what it means in terms of models and in terms of the resources you require, but how you need to be also smaller, maybe less heavy on resources. And so what's your I guess you have a plan and everything, but what's your approach on that? Be like how you fit within like the big guys, being the Apple or the Microsoft of this world, but also making sure you are still robust and you can be in the pockets of every like citizen on the planet. Let's say any human has a phone, so if you're on a phone, then you're accessible to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's striking the right balance of being horizontal and vertical. So at our model layer, right, just as a speech understanding and speech generation model, they're quite horizontal in their use case. Like if you wanted to use our APIs, you could use it for like a chatbot and stuff, right? Not necessarily like the vertical that we're going after and everything, but yeah, you could do that, right? Um, so I do think that foundational models that we make, that like an OpenAI makes, etc., they will continue to have like horizontal use cases for others to kind of build upon. But the real value will be in like verticalizing for a certain segment those capabilities and such, right? So if we've chosen sports, media, entertainment, education, and health, maybe a few more in the near future, then we're just going to focus on those segments and make sure that we can verticalize our models really, really well for that. And that's difficult to beat. Like even for a large company, let's say they built like the best, biggest model, it's very, very hard to beat a small verticalized model versus just a large horizontal model, right? It's become very, very clear to everybody that that is just the case. So I mean, roundabout technology, we've come across to the same business principles that focus and customer success and delivery is all that matters at the end. So, you want to be able to strive to get that right, regardless of the technology or anything.
Cool. Yeah, but I mean, I see and like your recent pre-series A, but also like maybe a new one coming up is definitely something where after that you can double down as well in terms of new verticals, but also verticalize even more. Guys, I'm also conscious of your time, but I still we like to end up a bit the podcast with kind of more of a personal like insights or reflections. And for me would be not necessarily just CAMB. Maybe like for you it's the CAMB.AI journey, but it's more also like what's the as entrepreneurs, like what's the biggest lessons or what you've learned along the way? Like what would you take back from the last, I don't know, 24, 36 months of CAMB.AI journey, or what is it? Because it's always fast paced, cutting edge. We are going from one client to another use case, and a new integrations, all of that. If you take a step back from like where you were even 3 years ago, 4 years ago, is like, okay, what? Imagine I am a newbie or I'm a new entrepreneur, and I come to you and I'm like, okay, how do you? What would be your biggest takeaway or piece of advice?
I think, JB, for me, um, this being the seventh business, what I've recognized as a clear difference between what we're doing right now and what I've done in my previous life, this business came about as a product of very strong experiential learning. It came about through very, very personal experiences and a personal experience of what the problem was really. And there's one thing uh, that I recognize, that when you create something which is born out of your own personal experiences, first-hand experiences, I think the passion that you carry towards it, the connectedness that you carry towards it, and the relevance that you can build for the world for that problem is very high. And that's what we've been experiencing ever since we started the company. We know the problem to the core of our soul. We know the solution and the technology which can solve it. And that's what keeps us bound to the very fabric of CAMB.AI every day, day in, day out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thing is I'm a little bit I'm still like fresh into my career, so to say. Right, I feel like I have so much more to learn, but and this might sound very cliche, but I think being unapologetically broad in your imagination and not limiting it is very important, because I just, one thing I've realized is people don't understand how capable they are. And it's surprising to me to just experience that, right? Like, if I just set my imagination here, I'll only achieve so much. But that same person, if they put their imagination here, they become Mamba, right? Like, it sounds very
You are
cliche.
creating problem like CTOs that's gonna think they're gonna solve the world. Like sometimes in startup scale ups, you will create monsters, man. But I hear you. But I hear you on what you're saying in
Yeah,
terms of
I'm not saying like, hey, I'm not talking about dreams of like, hey, I'm gonna change the world and stuff. I'm talking more about like, let if 2 years ago somebody had said that, Akshat, you guys are going to create technology and you're going to be the first voice model that's going to get rolled out on Bedrock.
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
JB, the only advice, if I could give an advice, is limitless imagination and stubborn execution. That's it.
Yeah, but going back to what you were saying, I guess you are stubborn because you feel it from your heart. Like if you are the first one to have experienced it and you know it and you are maybe the first customer client of your solution, it's because like after whatever happens, the lows or anything, you know there is something there that you need to
Yeah.
push for. On a North American/American IP sports rights, being in the middle of India, that's nice.
Yes. Across the world, all the way to Ghaziabad, where it all began 27 years back. So JB always remember, and we stated always our inspiration in the company, that famous dialogue from Ratatouille. Not everyone can be a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
Truly believe in that.
I know. But I mean, I like it, guys. I mean, I think in any case we're done, so that's fine. Like, I mean, for me, since the beginning, I like the vision behind it. I mean, you guys talk with the soul and the heart as well. I can hear it. So that's also what's cool on that journey with you guys. It's also like
No, I
we
think
can feel there is more than just an LLM or an infra or a business model or stuff. It's like more of a human journey too. So
and I
anyway,
think
thanks guys
JB, we
for
are
the
done with
podcast.
this, but I can tell you that the technology, the passion, the connectedness, everything apart, we couldn't have done it, and we can't do it without great partners, and that's the meeting of mind. Yeah, of course there's business to be done, and we'll do business with JB and we'll do business with Sam, but there's a different level of connectedness we feel with partners like you, who can understand our passion, understand our vision, and help us at every step of the way. So listen, thanks a lot for this. Thanks for the podcast anyways,
Yeah,
and thanks for everything. All right.
yeah. Thanks guys. I wish I can tune in 20 years with my daughter and have her help
You
me
will.
build whatever will be the future of mankind. So well done, Avnish.
Yes. She will.
I
You'll
love
be
I
able
love
to.
that story, guys. You need to pitch that to VCs and stuff. That will be my pitch to VCs, mate. We'll go for it.
Yes. Alrighty. Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. We hope you enjoy it as much as we love creating them. If you like the episode, feel free to comment, rate, and share with people around you. You can visit our website, www.lastsource.io, to learn more about our activities. You will discover a wide range of articles and can subscribe to our newsletter to receive the latest tech and sports news in your mailbox every month. Stay tuned for new episodes.
Le Corner.